emails popped up.
Yeah, I'm copying it right now. Alright.
Welcome back, live squad, to another ComboLG podcast. We're not really that late, but it was a late advance, but we are here, and of course we are giving you your daily dose of ComboLG. But of course I am your host of Avengers, and alongside us is our other host, Lima.
What's up, guys? Sorry I couldn't be here last week for the podcast. It was a Friday night, and I wasn't able to be home that Friday night, so anyways, I'm back here for this week 12 podcast.
Week 12. But of course, if y'all are new, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to know when we go live or post a video, and hit that like button showing you support this series. But of course, our first game of this recap is Browns at Ravens, 38-0. What a blowout.
Yeah.
Complete domination. But surprised to see Browns only with 46 rushing yards. Passing, but no rushing, which is a very big.
I guess he was probably able to pass so well. He just kept he kept passing and just didn't want to run, or maybe the run was stopped. I guess we'll see when we get into the stats.
Oh yeah. 6 turnovers and 3 turnovers. Oof.
Yeah. Going down, as you can see, red zone percentage, the Brown was only at 50, and he had one touchdown and 1 field goal, so that means there were 2 times where he didn't score in the red zone. So that could be a good point for the Ravens there. At least something to take away from that game.
But in player stats, Deshaun Kaiser, it's 360 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, sacked 0 times. But Johnny Ortega Jr., rookie out of Louisville, 192 yards, 0 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, sacked 8 times. Hang on. Clock Meridia, Slardia. Let's go, podcast is love, podcast is life. Thank you so much for the support, buddy. But big just turnover game from both sides. Like,
yeah.
Deshaun Kaiser, I guess 1 for 1, but still.
Yeah, I mean, and then to be sacked 8 times and then throw 5 interceptions.
It must mean there was a lot of pressure and he just kept throwing, and it didn't matter where he's throwing.
Yeah. Alright, so going into rushing, you see the leading rusher from the Ravens was the quarterback, Johnny Ortega Jr. 9 attempts, 57 yards, and he did fumble twice. Isaiah Crowell leading the Browns, 15 attempts for 46 yards, so I mean, not the best rushing stats, so I could see why he'd want to keep passing. But
in the receiving game, leading receiver was Corey Coleman, 2 receptions, 96 yards. And for the Ravens, Rashad Perryman with 2 receptions, 57 yards.
Alright, going over to the defensive sides. Leading sacks was not Myles Garrett. That's a little bit of a surprise. Yeah. But anyways, Emmanuel Ogbah and Easton McGarity led the Browns with 2 sacks each. And then I don't think the Ravens didn't get a sack.
Yeah. But in interceptions, Easton McGarity also had 2 interceptions. Brandon Boykin with 2, Jason McCourty 1, Jabril Peppers, Jamarcus Hall with 1, and Jimmy Smith also having 1 interception. A lot of just back and forth here.
Yeah. And forced fumbles, Jamie Collins had 2 of them. Recoveries, yeah, it shows Joe Hayden with a recovery.
-1 yards. But in defensive touchdowns, Easton McGarry, rookie out of Michigan State, with 1, and Jabril Peppers with 1.
Yeah, and that one looked like it was a 92-yard return, so it looked like the Ravens were actually about to score. Alright, kick return, punt return, neither, so good job to the Browns for staying at the top of that division, playing really well. Good luck to both teams. Hopefully the Ravens can get a couple wins before we end the season.
But then we go into the next matchup. 13-10, Buffalo wins this game. Close game. Both sides.
Wow. This was a really really close game. No turnovers for either team.
Yeah. It looks like red zone offensive percentage got it 50 to 100. And then the Bills owning the ball for double the time of the Colts.
Yeah, so maybe the Colts guy decided to get a little aggressive and maybe went for it on, because there's no turnovers, so obviously he tried to go for it on 4, didn't get it. So maybe if he would have taken the field goal, they would have went into overtime and it could have been something different, but alright. Going into player stats, not much from either team throwing, but I mean pretty conservative really. 148 yards for Luck, 73 for Tyrod Taylor. Like we said, no interceptions for either, no touchdowns. Each were sacked twice.
But pretty similar. Devontae Mays with 26 attempts, 110 yards, a 4.2 average and a touchdown. And Devonta Freeman, 16 attempts, 16 rushes, 102 yards, 6.4 average and a touchdown.
Yeah,
pretty good for both rushing sides.
Yeah, definitely. And then going into receiving, Philip Dorsett led the Colts, 4 receptions for 67 yards. And then Philly Brown led the Bills, 2 receptions for 19 yards. Not much from the Bills, but he did spread the ball around pretty well, the Bills did.
In sacks, though, Carlton Hampton, look out New Hampshire, leading the game with 2. And Marcel Darius and Gerald Hodges Jr. each having 1 for the Bills.
Alright, forced fumbles. I don't think there were any. No turnovers at all, so...
So
no defense, yeah. No kick returns, no punt returns.
Cool. Really close game. Good job to both of y'all. That was a really good game. But of course, we come to our next game though. Another blowout this week.
Yeah.
Another complete blowout. It wasn't even a game. Look at all those check marks just showing that the Giants won on everything.
Yeah, everything. Except 4th down conversions, the Saints had 1, but yeah. Anyways, I mean 273 offensive yards compared to 139. Saints had 5 turnovers, Giants had 2. Red zone percentage was only 83. That's weird. So he was in the red zone quite a bit to have an 83 red zone percentage.
But of course, we go into player stats. Newly starting quarterback Davis Webb, 188 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, sacked 3 times. Blaine Gabbert still in there for Drew Brees. 121 yards, 4 interceptions, sacked 2. Oh no, it says Drew Brees got in there and threw an interception.
Yeah.
Sacked 2 times, but Davis Webb, he's had a decent season, especially with Eli Manning's last season completely being interceptions every game.
Yeah.
Davis Webb has been a very consistent quarterback.
Alright, so going into rushing, you see leading the Giants was the rookie Griffin Leach out of Illinois. He had 15 attempts, 115 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then Alvin Kamara with 15 attempts for 26 yards with a 1.7 average for the Saints.
In receiving, leading receiver was Odell Beckham Jr. I haven't seen much of him in the last couple seasons. He really usually... they must not have him anymore, but he's leading the Giants for the last couple weeks. 5 receptions, 76 yards. And Josh Gordon, 1 reception for 50 yards.
Alright, so going on to the defensive sides, the sacks here, you see DeMarcus Lawrence leading the Saints with 2 sacks. And then Olivier Vernon and Taylor Marshall, the rookie out of Maryland, each led the Giants with 1 sack apiece.
Interceptions, we got Marcus Williams leading with 2, and then Taylor Marshall, Janoris Jenkins, Darius Smith, Landon Collins, and Darian Thompson all having 1 for the Giants.
Yep, and then 1 forced fumble by Todd Davis. Was there a recovery? No, I don't think so.
Was there a defensive touchdown? No.
Nope.
Actually, there was no defensive touchdown in this game.
Oh, there was a punt return by Odell Beckham Jr., an 84-yard punt return.
Oh, of course. Good job to good job to the Giants. They're trying to get back. They're trying to stay in that division. Hopefully, take it over the Cowboys.
Yeah. All right. So going to the next game here, we have the Jets and the Dolphins, and Dolphins really haven't been showing up this year. Same with last year.
They didn't show up last year or this year. It looks like he's trying, but it looks like it's just not working out for him.
Yeah. But as you can see here, Jets led 318 total yards compared to 286. Dolphins had 2 turnovers. Jets had none. The time of possession was actually won by the Dolphins, but if you're not putting up points, it doesn't really matter.
Jets had 3 penalty yards. Yeah, it's 3. Don't tell me how you get 3. Like, I don't know any penalties that can give you 3, except I guess
probably just a half the distance to the goal, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But in player stats, Blake Bortles was 105 yards, 1 touchdown, sacked 3 times. Dak Prescott has not had a good season yet in this league. 218 yards, touchdown, 2 interceptions, sacked 6 different times.
Alright, going into rushing, TJ Yeldon with a pretty good game. 24 attempts, 178 yards, a touchdown. He did have a fumble though. And Jay Ajayi, 22 attempts for 116 yards, no touchdowns. Not bad from either team, but really good from the Jets.
Yeah, Jets recently acquired Jay Ajayi. But in receiving, 4 receptions, 69 yards, and a touchdown by Jarvis Landry. For the Jets, Robbie Anderson, 1 reception, 38 yards. Still leads the Jets in every game he plays.
Alright, so going on to defense, we go to sacks. You see Muhammad Wilkerson led the Jets with 2.5 sacks. And then the rookie Hunter Huff out of New Mexico State led the Dolphins with 1.5 sack.
Just a bunch of sacks all over the place. And interceptions though, Morris Claiborne having 1 and Christian Jones having 1.
I don't think, no, there was a forced fumble, but no recovery. No defensive touchdown.
Kick return or punt return, neither. Good job to the Jets. And of course, guys, like always, good luck in the rest of your season. But of course, the next game we come to was game of the week for week 11. Was the Raiders at the Broncos. I will be taking over this, like we always do. If it's a commissioner or one of the hosts game, we do go over it. The other host does. And we, oh my lord, just complete domination on that offensive side of the ball. Not even 100 yards gained by the Broncos in this. No points, not even 100 yards gained. Turned over the ball twice while you had 0, and you owned the ball for about 5 more minutes. Let's get into player stats here, because this is where you can see how everything unfolded for the Raiders in this game. Just remember, guys, this game was game of the week because the Raiders and the Broncos were both tied in their division. Whoever won this game was taking over the division. But of course, we see Derek Carr actually having a really good game. 102 yards, 1 touchdown, sacked 0 times. Trevor Siemian, 55 yards, 2 interceptions, sacked twice. Not a really good game for Derek Carr from you. Derek Carr usually doesn't get much into the game, but he got into the game this week. In rushing, though, Johnny Speed, rookie out of Bowling Green State, huge gain, 26 attempts, 129 yards, 5 average, a touchdown, and a fumble. And Jerome the Bus Bettis, rookie out of Clemson, 22 attempts, 67 yards, and 3 average. Broke 7 tackles though.
Yeah, he was so hard to tackle. Like whoever touched him first did not make the tackle. I'll say that. Every first contact, he pretty much broke.
Oh yeah, but he didn't get the yards after that the broken tackle. But really good game from Johnny Speed for you. Really good game. Receiving, though, leading receiver was Michael Crabtree. 2 receptions, 101 yards, and 1 touchdown. Really, really big game for him. And Carlos Henderson with 1 reception, 39 yards. I love how Jared Cook down here got 1 reception, 30 yards. Like, down here, just last yard. Just give him to Jared Cook. But of course, we go to defense. So this is where everything happens. Cause like I said, it was defense that was going to do this. Gilbert Moorhead, rookie out of Louisville. I haven't heard much of him this season with the sack, and Ben Heaney with the sack. But the interceptions do go to Gilbert Moorhead and Gary on. Was there forced fumbles? One by Melvin Ingram. Was it recovered?
No.
By y'all. And defensive touchdowns were done. So it was an all offensive game for you. How do you feel though? Because this was a really big game for you. Really tough opponent to come, especially when y'all were tied.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this: the game was a little one-sided. Like, you know, he wasn't like screwed over anywhere, but it was kind of like, you know, he wasn't getting any good block sheds. I was getting some pretty good ones, stuff like that. But like, there wasn't one like play where he like really got screwed over. But I mean, I deserved the win. I played really well. It felt good to get a win against him because this was my first win in this year Combo League against him. He beat me twice last season, so and we still play each other in week 17, I believe. So we still got one more meeting.
One more game, and it's going to be another big game. He's going to come for revenge. But congratulations to you. And good luck to everybody in their CLC and everybody's season tickets. Only week 12, guys. Only week 12. Anything can happen. But of course, we come to our next game. Carolina Panthers versus the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings come out 27-10. Yeah, it was the Vikings ball on the offensive side of the ball, but the Panthers just had nothing going for them. Anyway.
Yeah. They each only had one turnover though. Other than that, I mean, Vikings led time of possession. He really led a lot of it, but going into player stats, you see Teddy Bridgewater, 92 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, sacked 4 times. And then Cam Newton, 47 yards for the whole game, 1 touchdown. Yeah, he did throw an interception, and he was also sacked 4 times.
Yeah, were they just trying to give each other the same stats? But of course, in rushing, Dalvin Cook, 20 rushes, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns, did fumble the ball. And Christian McCaffrey, 16 yards, 71 yards. 16 rushes for 71 yards. Just nothing going for him in that game. Really,
no. Alright, and then going into receiving, leader from the Vikings was Kyle Rudolph. 4 receptions, 71 yards, and a touchdown. And then Christian McCaffrey led the Panthers with 5 receptions for 33 yards.
In defensive stats, we do have a bunch of sacks. James Bradbury, Ray Lewis Jr., rookie out of Nebraska, Anthony Barr, Captain Munham, Charles Wilson Jr., rookie out of Florida State, Mario Addison, Charles Johnson, Wilson Griffin, and Ed Reed Jr., rookie out of Delaware State, all having a sack, and Emerson Griffin and Ed Reed Jr. having a combined total of 1 sack.
Yep. And then each team did get 1 interception. Patrick Willis Jr. from the Vikings, and then Thomas Davis Sr. from the Panthers.
I didn't know he was still in the league. He's like 9 years old.
Yeah, and then forced fumbles. Luke Kuechly had 1.
No.
And then no defensive touchdowns.
Return or punt return. Not either there either. Of course, congratulations to the Vikings. Good luck to the rest of them.
Yep. Alright, so this next one, as you see, 3 starts. The first time they disconnected, they just restarted with the point spread and still tried to play the whole game. Second time, disconnected again.
We made 1 quarter. We made it 1 quarter the second time.
So they decided to just play 3 quarters with the point spread. And then and then conceded after the 3 quarters. So the stats did save, but it was only from 3 quarters, but we can still talk about them.
Hang on.
We did get a comment that's just saying Prophet said that Avengers mic is not loud enough, but yeah, it's always like that. It's just because when I stream, my mic is louder.
Right. Let's see.
It's a little better.
I hope my mic. So let's see if that works. If it doesn't make it any louder, guys, I do talk kind of quietly. Like I'm really, unless I'm mad, I'm really not a loud person. I do tend to talk a lot quieter than most people.
All right,
but of course we'll let Lima take over this.
Yeah, get into this game. You see, like as we said earlier, this was only 3-quarter game and it was a replay, so the point spread was a bit off than what it showed. But Cowboys actually led yards in this one, 229 to 171. Rushing yards was led by the Titans, and then passing yards led by the Cowboys. 1 turnover for the Titans, 4 for the Cowboys. So that was a huge factor. Red zone percentage, Cowboys only 50%, while Titans scored both times he went to the red zone, and he led time of possession. Let's see here. Going into the player stats, Alex Smith from the Cowboys, 185 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. He was not sacked, though. Marcus Mariota, 44 pass yards, 1 interception, and he was sacked twice. And then going into the rushing game, Harvey Worlds, the rookie out of Ohio State, 26 attempts, 142 yards, and a touchdown, 5 broken tackles. And then Ezekiel Elliott, 9 attempts, 37 yards for a 4.1 average. So pretty good game there for...
I will be going to my Twitch, taking 1 clip out of there and putting it on our channel that I would hope y'all would watch, because it was an amazing play by Harvey, and I want y'all to see it if y'all didn't get to watch it.
Alright, so going into receiving, you see Jakeem Grant, 2 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. He led the Cowboys, and then Taywan Taylor with 1 reception for 34 yards led the Titans. Alright, going into defense, sacks, not that many sacks, but Taco Charlton led the Cowboys with 1, and then Tyrone Crawford and Devron Benjamin each shared with half a sack. A lot of well, not a lot, but 3 interceptions coming from the Titans. Jaylen Brown, Kevin Byard, and Jonathan Cyprien each had 1, and then from the Cowboys, Chidobe Awuzie had 1 interception. Let's see, were there any forced fumbles? 1 by Jeremy Cash, and there was a fumble recovery by Telvin Smith. No defensive touchdowns in that one. No kick returns, no punt returns.
Yeah, I will say this though, if it had given us from the first game or the second game or whatever, there was a defensive touchdown, it would have been a much better game. Because in the end, if you count the points, it was 26-16 was the final score.
Alright, so going into our last game of the week, this was a really good game. It actually went to overtime. And the winless Seahawks almost stole one from the division leading 49ers. But as you can see, actually 49ers leading with yards and everything, but he did have 3 turnovers compared to the Seahawks only having 2.
And 49ers 66% in the red zone versus 100 by the Seahawks.
And time of possession was actually pretty equal.
Yeah. But of course, we're going to player stats. CJ Beathard, 165 yards, a touchdown, 3 interceptions, sacked 3 times, and then did Russell Wilson get injured?
No, I think he played and then just didn't. He wanted the lefty in or something.
Yeah. Bradney Nate Teal, rookie out of Notre Dame, 35 yards, 2 interceptions, sacked once. Oof. Big rushing games though.
Yeah, CJ Prosise, 25 attempts, 170 yards, and a touchdown. He also broke 5 tackles. And then Joe Williams, second-year player out of Utah, 21 attempts, 166 yards, and a touchdown.
Good rushing game from both sides. Really good rushing game from both sides. But of course, we go into receiving, and we see Kenny Golladay, 3 receptions, 68 yards, leading the 49ers, and then Jimmy Graham, 1 reception, 20 yards, leading the Seahawks.
Yeah, and then going to the defensive side, sacks, DeForest Buckner led the Niners with 2. And then Frank Clark, D. Milner, and Malik McDowell each had 1 from the Seahawks.
And interceptions, we do have quite a few. We got Cam Chancellor, Barry Wade, rookie out of Texas. We have Rashard Robinson, Shaquille Griffin, and Earl Thomas III all having 1 interception.
Yep, and then going over to forced fumbles, there were 3. DeForest Buckner, Bobby Wagner, and T.J. McDonald all had 1.
But only 1 recovery by Willis Chapman, rookie out of Central Michigan.
Yep. No defensive touchdowns in this one either, so no kick returns, no punt returns, so good job to the 49ers for edging this one out in overtime.
But congratulations to the Seahawks for making this a very close game, taking it to overtime. So, in this season, guys, we've had 1 tie, and we've had 1 overtime game. That is nuts, that this season is the season we go like that.
Yeah.
But, of course, we're going into Week 12, guys. It's been a long season, but it's a very great season. Y'all have all been supportive. Y'all have loved the series. And we, of course, give back to y'all by telling y'all who's Game of the Week, who gets the honors. And no, guys, we don't try to choose the same people. It's just sometimes it's a better game. We go through 4 or 5 different games, and usually we have to decide depending on different stats.
Yeah, and this week there really were, I'm not exaggerating, 5 games we were trying to decide from here.
Crazy amount of games. But, of course, we ended up with the Buccaneers and Falcons. Bucks, I think what I saw was 6-4 or 6-5. And the Falcons are, if I'm not mistaken, leading their division.
Yeah.
Like they did last season.
I mean, the first time they played, obviously the score was off, but that's, you know, we explained why last time. So this will definitely be a lot closer. And maybe I think Blake Deshaun might go out there and play really well for revenge for being embarrassed in that last one score-wise, even though it wasn't fully him.
Yeah, Falcons are 8-2. Panthers and Bucks are both 6-4 in their division. So Falcons have a 2-game lead, and if the Bucks can come out here and win against the Falcons, putting them only 1 game behind, that'd be a really great game for them.
Yeah. But well, we chose this game over the other games for a couple reasons. Like that, the other games that we could have chose from were all really good matchups, but we chose this one for a reason. But so I already said who I think the Bucks are going to come out and win this one. Who did you think was going to actually win?
You are right. The Bucks are going to come out here and play really hard to get revenge and to give the Falcons the same humiliation. But I do have to say the Falcons played really well this season. They have 2 good running backs, especially with Tevin Coleman, who's speed, and then they had Derrick Henry, who's a great power back. They have the quarterback, they have the receivers, they have the defense. I have to give it to the Falcons that the Falcons are going to come out on top in this one.
Falcons, okay. So, we're against each other on this one. But anyway, we'll see how this one plays out. Good luck to both teams. Good luck to everyone this week.
Yes. For some people, it is a big week for them to win or to lose.
Yeah. And we are getting closer to the end, so, like, we're starting to, like, fight for playoff spots. We're starting to get a picture of like who's gonna make it, who's not gonna make it, who's on the edge of making it. So this is like these coming weeks are really important.
I will give y'all a couple things before we go into the last part. The other two of the other big games was the Jets and Bills, and of course the Broncos and Chiefs. I will tell you their records. Jets are leading the division 8-2 with the Bills at 7-3. And we got another game just like last week with the Raiders and Broncos. Broncos and Chiefs are both 7-3. So whoever wins this one has a chance of making the second spot and making a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So those are the other two games we were thinking about. But all in all, the Falcons and the Bucks are going to be our game of the week.
Alright here, so we're going to move on to the last part of the podcast here. Let me just get over there. Alright, weekly awards. It's a little bit of, not too much of a surprise, but some new faces here, not fully, but as you can see, the Bucks, I don't know his first name, Jackson, the running back, 18 carries, 164 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and he did have a reception for 13 yards, and then Desmond Trufant with 8 tackles and 2 interceptions got it for the NFC defense.
Tom Brady has not been seen in the past 2 seasons. This is the first time Tom Brady's been a player of the week with 28 for 43, 337 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 2 sacks, and 5 carries for 18 yards. Tom Brady trying to rush the ball.
5 times, I know.
And was it Asen McGarity? 6 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 1 defensive touchdown. He deserved that, but completely.
Yeah, so good job to all 4 of these players this week. Really, some close games, some not so close games. It's going to be like that always. I'm looking forward to this week because, as we already said, we had like 5 games we were trying to choose from. Yeah. So really, they all have potential to be really good games. So this is a really exciting week.
I hope they all come out, even if they're not game of the week. I hope they come out to be really good games.
Yeah.
But of course, guys, as we always end this, I hope y'all did enjoy it. We really appreciate y'all coming out every time watching these. Hit that like button if you do support us. Subscribe and hit the bell to know when we go live or we have posted a video. But of course, I'm your host Avengers. Alongside us is our host Lima.
Alright guys, thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you guys next week for another ComboLG podcast.